Hello, welcome to today's episode of Wellbeing with Neka. How have you been? How are you preparing for the holidays? If you're a parent and you see this video, please do not scroll past because what I'm about to talk about will benefit you just as it is benefiting me. So if you're a parent, especially a parent to a teenager, please come closer. Draw your seats closer. Let's have this conversation. My name is Nek and I'm your well-being practitioner, and I talk to you about your mental health, your physical health, nutrition, and anything that will help your well-being. So on today's topic, we're dealing with managing teenagers. How do you manage your teenagers? How do you manage the different characters that teenagers exhibit as soon as they enter their 12th and 13th year? So if you are here, do not move. If you know a parent who is in these shoes like me, and you probably, make sure they get to see this video. Invite them to this channel, share the link with them. If you have a teenager or if you have been close to a teenager, you will notice that as soon as they cross into their 12th and 13th years, for 99% of them, it seems like something changes. They talk back, they argue, they want to push boundaries, they want to do things without thinking, or they want to think after the deed has already been done. Why are they like this? Why is it a worldwide pandemic? Or is it a humanity pandemic? I will explain this psychologically and we'll go through how to manage this stage of parenting, this stage of growing up, so that we don't come out broken or come out with broken children. Let's take it one reason at a time. We're going to talk about the reason or the reasons why they are like this. Let's go. Adolescence or teenage age is when a child moves from being a child and steps into the early stages of adulthood. This stage is very confusing for these children because they are neither children nor adults. They are in between. They see themselves as too old to be kids or to be treated as kids, and they are too young to take the responsibilities of adulthood. So you don't blame them when they are caught in between two different worlds with two different expectations. Biologically and psychologically, a lot of changes go on in an adolescent or a teenager. These are biological in the physical features as well as their psychological and mental space. A teenager is at that point where the part of the brain that controls emotions develops faster than the part of the brain that controls logic. What this means is that they are more emotional than logical. It means that the average teenager is more driven by emotions than logic. It means they will act out what they feel before thinking about it or thinking about the outcome of their actions. Dear parents, don't worry. As you can see, this is not just about you. This is not about your parenting style or something you're doing wrong. This is biology and psychology. When this part of the brain has not fully developed, the child or the children are more likely to take risks, take chances, do things that you would wonder why they did it, simply because the logical part of the brain have not yet caught up with the emotional part of the brain. I hope this explains some of the things you're battling to understand with your teenager. The other implication of this is that they react faster than they think. They tend to talk back, they tend to judge you by your emotions than your intentions. They tend to judge you in advance as a parent. They want to match you emotion to emotion without thinking about why you are doing certain things. I am sure a lot of parents will sit down at this point and nod their heads in understanding of what has been troubling them, that nobody has had the time or the fortune to explain to them. We will also go to the next reason why adolescents act the way they do. The next reason is because adolescence is a stage where that child begins to form his or her own identity. They begin to question who they are and who they want to be. They also begin to form a sense of independence, of trying to separate themselves from their parents physically and emotionally. In so doing, they ask questions, they try to put their foot forward, they try to assert their own authority and their own persona in trying to prove that they have their own individual identity. But as parents, we know that most of the time, at least at the earliest stage of adolescence, they do not have the capacity to own this identity they want to push. Which is where the clash comes in. Because as parents, we try to tell them that they are not doing it the right way. And as people who think they have mastered their identity or that they have achieved independence, they try to push backwards. Are you in this shoe of constantly trying to make your teenager understand your point and they blatantly stick to their point, which you know and which I know too are pointless most of the time? Don't fret. We're going to walk through this, as you already know that you're not alone in this ship. Before we go forward to the next reason, we need to understand that pushing back is developmentally normal and healthy. If you have an adolescent who pushes boundaries, who pushes back, who tries to assert themselves or their authority, you just need to know that it is developmentally normal and healthy. And if it doesn't happen at all, you should be worried. Having said that, we're going to the next reason why parenting teenagers is so difficult for a lot of people. The teenage age is where the individual tends to give more credence or importance to peers than to parents. They are more aligned to peer acceptance than to what parents have to say. They want to have their status among their peers respected more than they want to in the eyes of their parents. This is absolutely developmentally normal, and how we manage it at this stage might make or mar this teenager in our care. So I have listed some of the reasons why teenagers make parenting difficult for a lot of parents. And if you have gotten to this point, if you have found this topic interesting, I want to remind you that we have other interesting topics you might have missed. So click subscribe and continue to be with us on this channel, as we're going to be talking about so many topics that you can relate to. So let's go on this topic, because we intend to make good use of the time and to help a lot of parents who are in our shoe, because yes, I can tell you that I am in your shoe. I totally understand as a parent, and as a well-being practitioner, I also understand. The hormonal change that occurs during adolescence or early adolescence causes mood swings, sensitivity, and extreme sensitivity to criticism or judgment. At this stage, the adolescent thinks that every slight correction or most corrections are them being judged or criticized. Blame this on the hormones, which will eventually settle as they get older. It causes arguments, especially when they feel judged or criticized. As you can see, I know you must have identified a lot of similarities with what you're experiencing. Now let's go ahead and talk about how to handle this so you don't get burnt and the children come out unscathed. Having mentioned what causes your teenager's behavior, let us go ahead to talk about how we can manage this stage in our parenting journey. The first stage is changing how you talk and not what you say. What do I mean by this? Teenagers switch off at long lectures. Yes, once you try to admonish using long lectures, they switch off. So you have to adopt shorter, calmer approach to your admonitions and to your corrections. Instead of long lectures which they hear as rants, switch to short and calm admonitions. The next way that you can manage this stage in your teenagers is to give them choices, give them options instead of commands. So instead of saying, you must do this now, you can say, are you doing this now or later? That way, you allow them to exert their independence and freedom of choice, and you also get what you want done. That way, they feel they have a choice or they have the chance to make a choice, yet do what needs to be done. I want to remind you again that on this channel, we say very useful, well-researched things on various topics on well-being, and you will not be fair to yourself if you have not clicked subscribe or shared this link to your friends. Let's go on how to manage our parenting of teenagers. The next way to manage communication with your teenagers is to listen to them, even when they're throwing a tantrum or getting on your nerves. Allow them say what they think or what they feel. Repeat what you think they said to confirm that you understood them, and go ahead to make your own point. By interrupting them, they feel stifled, they feel boxed into a corner. So you have to allow them say what they feel, especially during a disagreement. I know this is very hard, but you will have to practice it. Another tactic that works when managing teenagers is choosing your battles. Yes, a lot of parents engage in arguments over things that are inconsequential, like hairstyle, or whether they're talking, or whether they wash their faces, or those are not battles you have to go into. All these fleeting things that they will get over or grow over without getting into any troubles with it, don't bother yourself about them. You have to focus on things that border on honesty, values, things that will affect them as a person, respect for themselves and for yourself. Leave fleeting things like style, music, except of course these things will affect who they are or who they turn out to be. So in managing teenagers, you need to choose your battles. But in doing so, make sure you maintain the values, the respect, and the honesty they need to grow up with. Another way to manage adolescents or teenagers is to not to engage in arguments with them. When you get to that point, you have brought yourself to the level of that teenager, back and forth, arguing to make your point. Be calm and firm in whatever it is you want to say. You do not have to change your stance. You do not have to be scared of giving your instructions in a structured way. Just do not engage in a back and forth argument or yelling with your teenager. If you do that, you're relinquishing your authority, you're relinquishing your powers to them. Let us go on to the next way to manage that troublesome teenager under your care. When dealing with a teenager and you give rules without reasons, they see it as a power play. They want to tell you that they can if they want to. So do not give rules without reasons. So instead of saying you cannot leave this house, you can rephrase it as, if you leave this house by this time, I'm worried you're going to get into trouble. You're going to get into XYZ. So and so is likely to happen. Don't say, you must cut this your dreadlocks. You can say it, the society feels that people on dreadlocks XYZ, and I wouldn't want you to be caught in the web of that societal misconception. That way you have said the same thing in different ways, and they do not feel the need to counter what you have said. So when you are giving an instruction, please don't forget to say the why. Don't forget to tell them why, because this is a stage where they want to exert their independence, and it will be a clash if you do not tell them why, or if you do not let them understand why. The next one is allowing them to bear the natural consequences of whatever they have done. They refuse to go to sleep early, allow them wake up late, allow them miss the bus. They don't do their homework, allow them get punished in school. They don't wash their uniforms, allow them go out dirty. Then whatever consequence comes with it, let them bear it. Allow them natural consequence of whatever decisions they took on their own. That way, they will learn better and they'll be able to make better choices without having to wriggle it literally out of you. Last but not the least, try to have an environment outside giving rules and instructions. Bonding times, play games, hangouts, laugh, crack jokes. Teenagers align more to you as a parent when they feel loved than when they feel ordered around. At this point, I think I have talked about almost everything we all need to know in managing our teenagers so that it doesn't turn to fisticuffs at every encounter. So if you know a parent, if you're a parent and you enjoyed this, you can leave us a comment, do us a share, and help subscribe so that you can get any of the wonderful topics we discuss on well-being with NECA. Thank you for sticking to this point. Thank you for watching me. Thank you for subscribing if you have subscribed. See you on the next topic. Bye.